All right, so how's everybody doing? Welcome back to the another episode of Here's the Thing at the end of the day. I'm joined here with Ricky. And Ricky,
Uh,
what are the topics we're going to be talking about?
okay, so the first thing we're going to be discussing is Marshawn Lynch's, well, his actions on the field and then the suspension, I guess, in its entirety. Then we're going to be discussing Chris Thomas, running back for the
Chris,
Washington Reds.
Chris Thompson.
Chris, whatever. I don't care anymore. We're gonna be talking about his comments on not bringing his family to the game and like basically talk about Eagles fans in general, I guess you could say. And then finally, we're gonna talk about quote unquote football experts and our opinions on them. So let's get straight into it.
Exactly. So let's talk about Marshawn Lynch first. I'd say
Okay.
that's
So
a
do you want
point.
do you want to do a brief synopsis real quick?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I don't know who watched the game, but Marshawn Lynch was what was it? He was
Well, what happened was when
it was a Derek Carr got wasn't it Derek Carr was running the football on a third down, and
it was a draw, yeah.
it was like a quarter. It was like a really dumb play. It was one of those things where you're thinking, well, maybe they're trying to get a field goal with the quarterback draw, but they really weren't in field goal range. They were at around the 40-yard line, so you're thinking the best thing you could possibly do is have like a short pass or something like that, so you could get yourself to around the 30, 35-yard line. But it's a quarterback draw, and he ends up falling for a loss. And what's his name? Peppers, the cornerback, he ends up getting a late lick in on Derek Carr. And I mean, at that point, it's a pretty good penalty because obviously Carr was down, and they try to protect quarterbacks like that. And there's kind of like a scuffle on the field where it's like, if you're an offensive lineman, I feel like you have a due diligence whenever somebody hits your quarterback like that in a cheap shot to kind
Yeah.
of
Well,
get some revenge. And then Marshawn Lynch comes in, and he wasn't even there on the play. He comes
he was
off
on the sideline.
and he ends up putting his hands on the referees. And I don't know what he was thinking during that, but it was obviously, I mean, he's obviously a dumbass for doing that.
Yeah, like I don't know why people are and look, you could argue that like, oh well, the refs being soft. Well, maybe Marshawn Lynch needs to know better.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to say whether or not obviously the late hit. You never want to see that with your quarterback, but at the
yeah.
same time, Marshawn Lynch needs to know better, and I could give a crap less if he's one of those players like, oh, well, he speaks his mind. Well, at the same time, you got to keep in mind that just because he speaks his mind doesn't mean that he's always going to make smart decisions.
Our president speaks his mind, and I mean, let's be honest here. Uh, but he comes onto the field. He puts his hands on the ref, which you might be thinking, well, yeah, of course you shouldn't put your hands on the ref. I don't think he was trying to strike the ref, but he was obviously hot in the head, and they called the flag on him. You're not in a football sense. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to come on from the sidelines and put your hands on anybody in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But he comes onto the field. He does that, and he gets ejected from the game. And what is it?
He gets suspended one game.
Gets suspended one game, and he spent the rest of the game. He was like in the stands with all the fans.
Listen, I'm gonna just say this. I don't think I think that the suspension was ridiculous.
I don't.
Well, how do you mean?
I think that uh, I think that Marshawn Lynch recently, for all the stuff he's done, has been treading in very deep waters when it's come to the NFL, and it they if they don't suspend him, then he's probably going to do it again.
Well, yeah, I can understand that, but my whole thing is that and this is like, and I'm not trying to equate these issues, but like with the Zeke Elliott situation, like they're trying to say like he did a lot of knuckleheadish stuff, right? But they're trying to get him on the domestic violence thing or whatever. My whole thing is that look, well that depends. When did Marshawn get ejected? Like the second quarter?
Yeah, it was the second quarter.
Okay, like me personally, I could really care less. I mean, like it's not like Marshawn Lynch was a key integral part of the Raiders in
But he
terms of like
but he is getting paid a lot.
that is true, yes.
So I don't
But
think I
yeah.
think that I think a $600,000 fine is just pocket change for him, and because of the fact that not only did he illegally come from the sideline, and that's like unsportsmanlike conduct, but he also put his hands on an official.
Now that you make it, now that you
and like we've seen ejection. I've seen ejections like that. Like one time, Brandon Stokely put his hands on it. He like got
I
upset,
remember that.
and he kind of like he high fived him. It was really like the official had his hands out like for a first down, and Brandon Stokely like swung his arms around and high fived him, and that was also an ejection. But I think he deserved to be ejected just because of what he like. If he was a player on the field, I don't think he should have been ejected. But because
on
the field, or he wasn't officially one of the 11 players on the or one of the 22 players on the field, then I think he should have. I think he deserved to.
Yeah, that makes more sense, Hank. Like, yeah, like now that you mention it, it's like, yeah, like here's my thing. If I would have thought it was ridiculous, I would think it would be ridiculous if he took part in the play and then did what he did. I think the suspension would have been a bit egregious. But considering the fact he ran out onto the field, and it's not like, and it wasn't like, when he ran out onto the field, like it wasn't like he just ran out a bit. No, he literally ran to the middle of the field.
Yeah, and I can understand if it was a situation where, the play happens and a flag isn't thrown.
Mm-hmm.
Then I can at least understand like him going up to the ref and saying what he needed like to say towards the ref. But the fact that the flag is thrown, if you're not an offensive lineman, which offensive linemen do this stuff all the time, and it's kind of like a pitcher beating another player with a baseball. I mean, they get ejected. I mean, so would an offensive lineman in that situation. Mm-hmm. But you don't even need to get in there because the Chiefs were penalized 15 yards, and you would have been, and if you hadn't done anything, then the ball would go from the 40-yard line all the way to what the 25.
25, yeah.
Instead, it's a 15-yard penalty, and then it's a 15-yard penalty back, and you're stuck in a first and 25 situation.
Exactly, yeah. Like, and I think that and someone made the joke, and this had nothing to do with him pushing the. It's like that's like the longest run that Marshawn Lynch had made all season.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, look, and then we can move on. All I'm gonna say is this: Marshawn Lynch. Now, and like you said, Hank, and you made a perfect point. If he was taking part in the play and he got ejected, I mean, he would have still gotten ejected.
Yeah.
And they gave him the suspension. Yeah, I could see it being a bit of a harsh thing, maybe. But considering the fact that he ran out to the middle of the field and pushed an official and take part in the scuffle, I can definitely see why they gave him a 1-game suspension.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's move on to good old Philadelphia and the city of brotherly hate. I mean, love.
We suck.
So just to do a brief synopsis, basically, one of the running backs for the Washington Redskins made a comment where he would never bring his family to Philadelphia because of the fans or whatever around those lines. Mm-hmm. So I know you as an Eagles fan, I mean, obviously I believe you're from North Jersey.
Yeah.
I'm from South Jersey, so I'm not trying to take any credibility or whatever, but like this has more to do with those that are specifically in Philadelphia. But
Yeah, I mean,
so what are your thoughts?
yeah, Eagles fans, we suck. I mean, it's unfortunate that we are known for most of the degenerate fans that we've had from like the late 60s all the way to the early 2000s. And like I can see where people make up the stereotype that Eagles fans suck. And I know you told us that you went to an Eagles game and you weren't really treated that nicely, and
Yeah.
it really sucks. But at the same time, it's really funny because a lot of the things that Eagles fans, and I'm not like excusing anything that I'm not saying that just because other fans have done certain things, and I hate to be like a talking deflection, but like basically everything that Eagles fans have been considered responsible for, other fan bases have been like
I've seen worse. I've seen worse from certain scenarios.
bases have done just as bad things. I mean, when it comes to, well, I mean, a lot of things come to mind. I mean, it's a great place to get slapped in the parking lot at Qualcomm Stadium. Somebody died at a Kansas City Chiefs game or a Denver Bronco game. I'm not sure which one, and I don't know what exactly happened there. There was a riot during a San Francisco 49ers Oakland Raiders preseason game. Giants fans threw snowballs at innocent people on the Chargers sidelines the day my sister was born. Yes, the one that made out with Kevin Hogan. I mean, Browns fans threw beer bottles at the referees and Jaguars players. I mean, I understand that a lot of bad things have occurred at Eagles games, and honestly, Eagles fans deserve the reputation that they've had, but it in at the end of the day, I try not to say it. At the end of the day, like if you don't want to bring your family there, I mean that's great, but we don't. Eagles fans don't care.
I don't. Yeah,
I mean,
honestly.
again, another deflection here. I mean, what? A guy in a Sean Taylor jersey was at FedEx Field receiving a blowjob from his girlfriend, wife, or random woman.
I
So,
guess.
so, like maybe I mean I wouldn't if I heard that was going on at any kind of sporting event, I would not bring my family there. You know what
Yeah, obviously. I just yeah.
So, like we deserve our reputation. Like we get it. We're god awful degenerate people. But like what that's done now is that's put like if you didn't know who Chris Thompson was before this whole thing happened, I don't know if he was asked a question or if he was answering a question or he just came out of the blue and said it. I don't know
I
what.
think it was asked the question. I think it was during an interview. I don't recall.
Okay. But regardless, you've just put a target on your back. Now all those Eagles fans who would probably try to, someone else, they're gonna go straight after you. They're gonna find you on the sideline and they're gonna be yelling at you.
I will say this. Look, obviously, I like the reputation that the Eagles fan base has. You could argue the entirety of the Philadelphia sports area fan bases, whatever. You can make the argument, yeah, that like I know, and obviously there are going to be bad apples, but I think that of course, Philly, in my opinion, just embraces this negative atmosphere and uses it as fuel for the fan base. But even though whatever that may be, my whole thing is that obviously, I will never go to an Eagles fan. I'll never go to an Eagles Cowboys game in Philadelphia alone ever. Like, I mean, obviously you could say that to the extent of any sports game, but the reason why I say more specifically an Eagles, like I could go to, I mean, obviously I'm a fan, but like I could go to like a Yankees game as a Philly fan. I could do that. That's fine. But like the issue I have is like, and I can understand, like I can understand where he's coming from, but throwing snowballs at Santa Claus, I really could really care. I mean, it's stupid, but it's nothing crazy. I mean, there has been where throwing Bottlegate, that was horrific. But I mean, there are obviously more numerous things Eagle fans have done. I mean, I just think I will say this: Philadelphia does have a very passionate fan base, that I can say. But at the end of the day, oh God. But look, my whole thing is that I just think that it's just I just think they're stupid. It's not they're aggressive, but I just think they're many Eagles fans. Not saying you, but many Eagles fans in the Philadelphia area are just stupid. They don't it's just you could say that about, I guess, any sports team. You could say that about the Redskins fans, Giants. You're gonna have the bad apples, obviously, but I just think Philadelphia just prides on something that people perceive as them being the worst fan. I mean, like I said, I've seen worse from other fan bases, but at the end of the day, I mean, the Eagles fan base,
I mean, I've gone out and I've seen situations where there's a whole section fighting each other.
Yeah, Eagles fans fighting Eagles fans now. Well, I've seen Eagles fan. I remember, I even saw this. There was a kid wearing a Cowboys jersey, and the Eagles fans wouldn't allow him to use the bathroom. I was like, yo, what the frig are you doing? This is messed up. Come on, guys. Seriously, this is stupid.
Did you ever hear what happened to DJ when he was a kid?
What?
He was wearing his Browns jersey at a Redskins game.
Oh no.
He was in the porta potty. They were he was 10 years old, maybe. They were talking shit about him, in the porta potty. So it's I'm not gonna say that Eagles fans aren't bad.
You could argue any fan base.
In many situations, they could be considered bad fans, but dude, we get it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The funny thing is, whenever something like this happens, the media always goes. ESPN always goes right towards stuff we've seen a million times.
Yeah, that's my thing. It's you need to
really that original anymore. And I mean, the funniest thing I saw is I was on Twitter or something like that, and the old man that got punched by that Panthers fan.
Yeah.
He was I'm so glad. There's a picture of the guy, and he's 60-something-year-old man got punched in the face, and he's Eagles fans deserve this. And he was,
yeah.
And he's wearing a Panthers shirt. So it was I'm not really that fazed by it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, we can go over the same thing. You're obviously gonna have bad apples with every fan base. And I mean, you could argue that the Eagles have more bad apples than any other. You can make an argument, but if you're gonna make an argument, at least be original. Yeah, you could bring up the Santa Claus thing. You could talk about the battery, the battery stuff, Bounty Gate, whatever. Well, I mean, Bounty Gate had to deal with the actual staff, but
cheering when Michael Irvin got.
Yeah, I mean, but you could do something talk to visitors and their account of the game. That's more original, because you can hear numerous stories from many people about, if you're trying to prove a point. That's what I'm trying to get at. But at the end, and also I'm going to be going to, I finally got this finalized where me and my mom were going to the Washington Redskins game with the Dallas Cowboys. I believe that's the 29th, and we're going to be tailgating. So
in Dallas?
No, not in Dallas. No, we're going down in Washington.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's gonna be fun. Yay, we got to deal with Redskins fans.
I know, they're a whole nother thing.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to experts.
I'm an expert.
Todd, Todd.
Todd.
All right. I guess this is just has to deal with like our, well, more specifically. I mean, you brought up the topic, but more or less our pet peeves when it comes to quote unquote experts, whether that be a TV personality or someone that's hired to be an expert, whether that be through the draft, college, well,
somebody who gets paid to like talk about sports,
spurts,
or football more in particular. Because I was just like thinking to myself, like thinking about how many times like experts have gotten it wrong, you know.
Mhm.
And I feel like if I make a mistake in my, like, first of all, it's not that hard to be an expert.
It really isn't.
I feel like if I was paid to be a football expert, I could talk for like an hour about a certain topic, and I would do relatively just as good of a job as these people.
Yeah, like this is my problem. Like, you know, when you come up with mock drafts, now, look, I've done mock drafts. I'm pretty sure everybody is done, and their mother has done mock drafts. My problem is this, like, look, obviously, I'm not saying that these people aren't entitled to their opinion. Obviously, you're not either. But it's just like sometimes it's just like what kind of makes me upset is and of course some of them have big egos, so they don't want to admit that they're wrong. When I'm wrong, I'll admit it. Like I was wrong on Carson Wentz. I didn't think that he was going to be that fantastic. I mean, I thought he was going to be decent, but I didn't think he was going to end up being a franchise level quarterback. I was wrong on Jared Goff. I was wrong on numerous people, and
Yeah.
you know, whether that be good or bad, and like that's something that, yeah.
I would rather reserve my thoughts to the 2016 rookie class until,
Well, obviously that's the exception.
the middle of the 2018 season, because it's a lot of things that happen like this, like a lot of gut check situations where like a rookie or a certain player will be playing like amazingly, and then you'll be like, oh, he's going to be amazing. And then like 2 or 3 years down the line, he's either not in the league, or like, I feel like too much in sports, it's a lot of like, instead of thinking like a lot of spur of the moment stuff. Like,
Yeah.
for instance, I remember when Ron Jaworski said that, and I don't trust anything I didn't trust anything Ron Jaworski said after this happened. But he came out and said, oh yeah, Colin Kaepernick is going to be the next great quarterback, and Colin Kaepernick is currently unemployed for whatever reason. You can use your imagination. I remember when all the experts were like, RG3 is going to be the next greatest quarterback in the National Football League.
Oh, no. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, even I could like, and you know, I'm not trying to be like, oh, I told you so, because even like
we don't get paid to say that stuff.
Yeah. Like even I from a mile away, a guy that's just, you know, going through college, you know, paying tuition, like nothing crazy. I mean, for God's sake, I'm not like trying to get an education in this kind of field, but like even I from a mile away could have been like, dude, this pistol offense crap's not gonna work for RG3, and guess what happens?
Yeah.
Guys out of, well, you know, the guys has, you know, unfortunately, and which sucks is the injury bug, which you can't really predict that either.
Yeah.
So,
And then you know, Jamarcus Russell, who our favorite Todd said was going to be the greatest quarterback the greatest quarterback prospect that's ever been drafted. What was it? I mean, and Jamarcus Russell, I don't know if he's still in Jeff Garcia's quarterback camp, but like it's like embarrassing to me, honestly.
Yeah, and then you have some people that like don't get enough credit. Like there are YouTubers, not necessarily like definitely not me or you or you know, but I'm talking about like there are channels on this website that I've gotten I watch them more than I watch Mel Kiper. Like the only reason I watch Mel Kiper is to see how stupid he is. but I don't take him seriously.
I don't really even watch ESPN or NFL Network that much because, like, if you look at some of them and their predictions, like, they're not that good. Like, the only step that you could say that, like, an expert who used to be a player probably has is the ability to know, like, how the sport works in the sense of they went through it and they played through it for like 10 to 15 years or more than that, and now they're discussing it because they've got firsthand knowledge of it. But the firsthand knowledge that they have doesn't even scrape the surface of like the stuff that they know. Like right now, the only analyst / commentator that I would actually trust is Tony Romo.
Yeah, Tony Romo made Thursday Night Football good again.
Situations, John Gruden is very overrated. John Gruden says good things. Like, here's the thing: John Gruden will talk. I mean, John Gruden, Joe Buck, they'll do nothing but talk nice about like one or two players.
And Gruden grinders.
At the end of the game, you could probably find them in the locker room sucking their D. So, like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
People always say, "Oh, you know, John Gruden would make such a great coach."
No, he wouldn't. The only reason he won a Super Bowl, in my opinion, was because Tony Dungy set up the framework to do it.
But like every offseason, every fan base who needs a head coach always considers John Gruden. I know because that happened to my team twice. But you know, he's not even that good of like a commentator. He's not even that good.
Yeah, I think Tony Romo's an amazing commentator. I don't know why people want to get mad at him for being animated. Like, well, not animated in a good way.
Tony Romo is the GOAT when it comes.
Yeah, obviously. That's why he's going to the Hall of Fame.
I trust Tony Romo 92% of the time. He's right 92% of the time.
Yeah.
But like when it comes to many of these other guys, it's just like, wow, congratulations! Like, you're an expert and you work for ESPN / NFL. For the life of me, I don't understand how Deion Sanders has a job.
Me either. Oh, I don't know how Chris Carter has a job.
What? Chris Carter?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't understand why most of those guys have jobs.
I just think it's because they're players. Like that's just because they have Hall of Fame credentials automatically means they're going to be fantastic. Like, I'll be honest, like the only Tony Romo, I think Tony Romo is like the only ex-player that I actually enjoy, and I'm not trying to say that because I'm the biggest Tony Romo fan.
Probably Tony Romo and Moose.
Yeah, those are the only two.
Are the only ones I actually like.
Everyone else can just suck it.
Yeah,
even you try.
I like Tony Zaragoza because he had good style.
Yeah, whatever. I'm playing.
Like, I mean, especially when they hired what was it? Fox hired Dean Blandino.
Oh my Christ, Dean Blandino! I hate him so much.
Like, here's the thing that's really funny about this stuff. Like, they're like, "Oh, Dean Blandino, our NFL rules expert." Like,
why do you need a rules expert?
Like, half the time he's sitting, like, they're like, say there was a fumble, and they're like, "Oh, Dean Blandino, the rules expert. What do you think about the fumble?" And he's like, every single time, he's like, "Well, if the knee was down if the knee was down and he was touched before the ball came out, then he's down. If not, then he's not down."
Like, he literally explains.
And they're like, "What's your opinion on it?" And he's just like, he kind of reminds me of one of the first TAs that I had for like a college course, and they were like,
"Oh my God,"
asking a question, and they were like, "Well, what do you think?" I'm like,
like a psychology class.
Advanced like mathematics when it comes to astronomy. You tell me what's going on. But like it's like lower tier than John Madden. Like, you know, John Madden was the guy who would always be like, he was coined for he was quoted for lines like, you
Like
need,
so
you need to use your hands to catch the ball, or like or like or like if the quarterback scrambles out of the pocket after a play action pass, that's called a bootleg.
My favorite, I think my favorite line I've heard him say, like there's and like you know, like it's a parody, but like you know, like it was just John Madden, like a parody of him saying, like you know, I think these athletes are playing a game of football. Like he was just explaining football, like
It's
no,
like
yeah,
I don't. And Dean Blandino doesn't even know the difference between a catch and a fumble. So like, what is he doing?
well,
What
him
is
and Mike Pereira.
well, Mike Pereira. The thing is, Mike Pereira, he had a difficult time too when it came. Like I think his first season was like 2010, I believe, when he was the Fox rules expert, and they tried to have Mike Carey be the CBS rules expert, but like he just didn't get a lot of calls right when it came to, you know, what was going to end up happening. But like Mike Pereira had trouble, but at least Mike Pereira wasn't a complete numbskull. At least Mike
Yeah.
Pereira probably knew what a catch and what an incomplete pass was. So
You tell him to tell that to Dez.
yeah, I mean, Dez caught that no point in time, and no point in time did that ball ever touch the ground.
Yeah, like I think it was the yeah.
At no point in time was Dez ever out of bounds. It's like Austin Safarian Jenkins thing, where
That's what that reminded me. Yeah.
the Jets should have beaten. And I know this is turning into a referees thing, so I apologize. But like that call,
We got like 30 minutes this.
call irked me so much. I can't even.
Yeah, same.
Like it's like these. It's like whoever is making these calls is just blind. I mean, they're not looking at what I'm seeing on the screen.
See, here's my thing, and I know I'm a Cowboys fan, so there's gonna be like, oh, you're biased. Like, what are you talking about? You're gonna be home. Like, here's my thing. When you look back at the Dez Bryant catch, right? Like, this is my thing. They rule him down inside the one, so you need to have conclusive evidence to prove that it wasn't a catch, right? And here's my thing. And I said this when I was watching it. I couldn't see and I couldn't tell if there was any evidence to prove that he didn't catch the ball. And that's what you're doing when you're challenging a play, right? Or you're reviewing a play. You have to have conclusive proof that said play went a different way. Like you can't just be like, oh well, it's 50-50. So no, and it even says it like in rule books when it comes to challenges. Like they had to have conclusive evidence to prove whether or not a call needs to be made.
At the same time, conclusive evidence is very subjective.
That is true, and that's the problem. Like there are margins for human error, and unfortunately, so like with Dez, what the reason why they felt like that the ball came out was because they didn't see the hand underneath the ball because of the camera angles. I don't know which camera angles they were looking at, because you can make the argument. My personal belief was he was down on the one because he had a knee down, right? And he had completed the process of the catch. You could argue that it should have been a touchdown because you could argue that the ball popped up and it didn't hit the ground and he caught it in the end zone. So you can make the argument that it is a touchdown. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, and the whole the Jets Patriots fiasco, which by the way, I was upset with that call because I didn't see how that was a touchback. And many Patriots fans are like, oh, well, if you look at the rule book, blah, 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 blah. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, what was the original ruling? A touchdown? Right?
No,
was it
ruling
down in the one?
Was down by contact inside the one.
Yeah, so my whole thing is like if you're ruling it that way, and it's just ridiculous, man. Like I hate to turn this into a whole the refs suck and everything, because obviously there is human error to an extent, but that was kind of ridiculous, man. Like think about it. If that ends up becoming a touchdown, then you could argue
if you're reviewing the play.
Yeah.
You're looking at all the camera angles, and all the camera angles say that he caught it. Basically, every time I see Dean Blandino on the screen, I just hear, Dez dropped it. Dez dropped it. Dez
That's
dropped
that's in my brain. Yeah, that's implanted into my like. Well, and then you could make the argument, and then obviously I'm not, and as a Cowboys fan, obviously that wasn't the make or break deal. Obviously there were other things that happened in that game that led
Yeah.
Dallas to lose, but that's besides the point. My whole thing is that
But
which I just and go getting back to like the whole idea of experts. I think Dean Blandino's job is pointless because it's like all he does is regurgitate stuff we already know. Like oh, like for example, like oh well, the like oh well if his knee's down then he's down by contact, but if he's not then it's a fumble.
if his arm wasn't moving forward before the ball came out, then it's a fumble.
Yeah, it's just like I don't have a problem. Like, look, obviously I'm not an I can't. I would never label myself an expert in NFL rules, but obviously I know basic crap so that I know what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's my thing.
Honestly, Jay Feely has more of a job than does more with his job than Dean Blandino does. All Jay Feely has is, bad snap, bad hold.
Oh no, no, but
he didn't follow through with the kick. I mean, it's just sad that a former kicker analyzing a kick is more important in society than a guy sitting there.
Knowledge.
I mean, yeah, there's a rules expert, but don't most of the commentators know the rules?
Yeah, well, I mean, look at Joe Buck. That's why, like, when baseball season rolls around, I hope to God every series takes as long as possible because I want to keep Joe Buck as far away from my screen as possible. And I'm not trying to be, I'm not saying he's a bad dude, okay? It's just when it comes to the way he talks, it's just so monotone. Like when the Phillies and if you watch the broadcast off of Fox, that's why now from now on I try to listen to the radio.
Yeah.
When the Phillies won the World Series, he wasn't he was just like the Phillies are world champions. Like, man, that is such a bum way to announce like like a World Series. Like there have been times where he's called like fantastic. I mean, when the Cubs won the World Series, I mean, you could argue that there's bias there, but like that was a good call.
Nobody was happy to see the Phillies win the World Series.
they're like and then the freaking Yankees.
And the Phillies win!
Yeah, the fucking Yankees.
Phillies win! Yay!
What was it like when the Yankees won? Like, he was so ecstatic. Yeah.
Oh,
don't Yankees fans hate this dude?
Wait, what? Oh, I was using the bathroom. The Phillies win.
Yeah, exactly. Look. And that's my problem is like be consistent. Like if you're gonna be an announcer, be consistent. Like if you're gonna show excitement in some games, like obviously, like I'm not saying be like over dramatic. Like if it's a 40-something game or a blowout, obviously you're just gonna be like, oh wow, obviously whatever. We've exhausted.
Do you want to talk about our teams this week?
Mm-hmm. Why not?
So,
do you want me to go first because you guys got the Monday game?
Yeah. Before I say that, Kelly's a little bit scared about this game.
I mean, I kind of am too, but like there is that,
Yeah. I mean, I say you guys win.
Yeah, I mean you predicted us to win. I mean, obviously I did too, but here's my thing. Okay, so looking at this whole game, it's literally, this is the Cowboys game to lose, and I'm not trying to be cocky about it, but it's true. It's like, obviously, the Cowboys are a much better team than San Francisco as of the moment. So, obviously, everyone's going to be like, oh, wow, because everyone's now saying that this is going to be a trap game. So, in my opinion, when everyone's saying that this is a trap game, now that puts more pressure on the 49ers to win. And I'm not trying to deflect any pressure by any means from the Cowboys, because obviously they are a much talented team. So they should be able to beat this team. But look, obviously, I think the Cowboys are going to get it done. They have all their linebackers are healthy. The only player that they have out is Chidobe Awuzie because of his hamstring issues. But I mean, outside of that, Chidobe hasn't done much, unfortunately, because of his injuries.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think the Cowboys will be fine. I mean, when they had they're 1-1 when Sean Lee is in the game, and for the most part, the offense for the past 2 weeks have scored 30+ points a game.
Yeah.
So I think that we got to see how the Cowboys do with a fully healthy squad, and if they lose this game with a fully healthy squad, okay, yeah, but like I said before we move on, I mean, there's nothing a lot to talk about. I mean, obviously, it's just like, wow, like the 49ers starting CJ Beathard. It's like we knew that was going to come and happen.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised it took this long.
Yeah, and I'm surprised how well he played. I mean, obviously, you're going to be like, oh, well, not you, but like, obviously, what are you talking about? They lost. Well, to be fair, I mean, not a lot of people thought a lot about CJ Beathard, and I mean, I thought he did pretty decent. So, just getting back to what I was going to say, so we can move on to the Eagles, because that's a more interesting matchup. Look, I think that because I've been hearing trap game everywhere. So, in my opinion, that's putting more pressure on the 49ers to win because, and I'm not trying to say that they're going to get destroyed. Like, obviously, I'm imagining it's going to be somewhat close towards the end. But look, when everyone is saying that a game's going to be a trap game, for the most part, it ends up either not being a trap game or close to one. But, so, I mean, when everyone's, like, I've seen everywhere people are picking the 49ers left and right, in my opinion, then the pressure diverts to San Francisco because everyone thinks that they're going to win because they think it's a trap game. But that's my thoughts. So let's move on to a more key matchup because this is going to definitely shape up how the Washington Redskins Dallas Cowboys game is going to be when I go.
Yeah,
so
it's one of those games where it's a division game. It's kind of like the revenge game for the Washington Redskins.
I want to take them lightly.
Obviously, it's going to be a tough game either way. I mean, the Eagles struggle against the Redskins. But in my eyes, you win every football game like this by, not making mistakes on offense and on defense. You got to stop. Oh, I just farted. Excuse me.
Okay, ADP, calm down.
You gotta stop the running game. But I think that in a certain, I think what Josh Norman and Breeland, or Josh Norman is ruled out, Breeland is questionable. So I mean, their secondary is going to be banged up. I mean, that's going to be good for Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar, Zach Ertz, Smith. But at the same time, this is a Philadelphia Eagles team. I mean, not this team, but I've seen the Philadelphia Eagles lose to Joe Webb, John Skelton. You just never. You can't. Even if like their best player isn't in the game, they still have Ryan Kerrigan, who, like, he's really the only player that I really fear on their team because he's such a premier pass rusher. But we just gotta play in front of the sticks every time. We need to get a better push than they do every time, and we can't make mistakes.
But I mean, I will say this: the season is still early, and people are like, "What are you talking about? It's week 6." Look, we just saw the Kansas City Chiefs start 5-0. Everyone thought that they were going to be unstoppable. Guess what? They lost 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this is the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm not trying to be like a biased Cowboys fan because obviously, they're the rival, but the Eagles have yet to prove that they can fully, as of now, as of recent, clutch out a season as good as they started out.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that they are going to choke or they won't, but
unless you say 2013.
What's up?
Unless you say 2013.
Well, no, I mean, you mean 2014?
2013. Because in 2013 they were 3-5, and they won.
Okay.
They won their games and only lost 1 to the
Well,
Vikings.
you can make the argument that could happen to the Cowboys. I mean, I'm not trying to argue with you on that, but like, you know what I mean? Like, with the uncertainty, whatever.
I'm not I'm not excited. I'm gonna be excited when we clinch that spot. That's the only time
Exactly.
I'm
Like
gonna be.
that's my thing. Yeah. That's the only
Yeah,
time. Like when.
as long as we don't make the mistakes, as long as the play calling is good, as long as we don't get screwed over by the officials, I
Yeah,
think
because the. Yeah.
I think that this is a game that we can win. But I think it's going to be I think it's going to be another one possession game.
Yeah, as long. Yeah, I just think that it's NFC East rivalry. You never know what's gonna happen, and you know, like like how am I gonna word it? Like, and I will say this: the Eagles, starting 5-1. If they collapse and mess up the season and don't make the playoffs, that could be a huge confidence detriment to many of the young players. I'm not saying that this is gonna end up leading to like the ultimate collapse. No, obviously not, because that would be way too preemptive to say. But obviously, you want to hope that even if the Eagles miss the playoffs per se, even if they go same situation in 2014, if they can improve on what they did last season, even if they end up hypothetically just stumbling and going 9-7, 10-6, or 11-5, that's huge improvement, and you obviously want to see that. I mean, obviously,
also, at the same time, the Eagles never had this big of a lead in the division.
So I mean, it's still there is a huge margin of error still to happen. I mean, we've seen it, when they were up, I know the Cowboys were right behind them, but still, literally, they were like 2 or 1 games away from clinching the division, and they end up losing 3 straight games. But whatever. Let's go. If you have anything else to say, if not, we're gonna move on to fantasy.
I just have one more thing.
Go ahead.
It's just that, like, I understand why Eagles fans feel like happy about this, but I say, like, cool the Jets on the whole Carson Wentz being MVP. He's improved this season, and I don't want to get
wait until the season. Wait until the playoffs start, or wait until you clinch everything if you do, because then you can start talking. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and move on to fantasy. So this must start or you must trade, whatever, because I do think a trade deadline might become. I don't know, but I will start. Let's do must trade, or if you have them, trade. And then we'll move on to must starts. My must trade, if you have them, well, you got him now. Trade Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
Well, his value is very high. Now, if you can't trade him tonight, you hope to God he has a very good game, whether he's your backup or starter. You want to ensure he has a good game to keep trade value high, so you can trade him for key players. I mean, in my for money league, not the 2 birds and a third fantasy league that we're doing, I have Zeke Elliott, Jay Ajayi, Jerick McKinnon, and Adrian Peterson. So I have a solid core at running back, and if you have a solid core at running back, don't be afraid to trade. To get players.
Exactly.
Do you have a must trade or nah?
I don't, but I feel like at this point, when it comes to most start, I would start Marcus Mariota.
Mm-hmm.
I like Marcus Mariota. He had a great game against the Colts at home, and now he's playing the Browns. So I'd start him.
My must start for quarterback Dak Prescott. He's going up, and I'm not trying to say this as a Cowboys fan, but looking at how Dak has been producing, he looks like he's doing a lot more in the offense for the Cowboys. And yes, Zeke has still been there, but at the end of the day, Dak last week put up 4 touchdowns, 3 passing, 1 rushing, and I think that he'll put up maybe 2 touchdowns possibly. Or 2 touchdowns in the air and 1 on the ground, maybe. And I think that Dak's going to have a decent game against the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
All right, running back.
Running backs. I need to look at the games.
I would start what's his name? I would start Jerick McKinnon.
Yeah. Who are they playing again?
They're playing against the
Playing-
Ravens.
Yeah, I would start him just because of the standpoint of, their running game worked really well at home against the Packers.
Yeah, and I mean, like, look, obviously, and if now look, and like I said at the beginning, if he's still available, get Adrian Peterson, put him on your bench, and hope that he has a good game. I wouldn't call him a must start, but if you have to start him, and try to get him for trade bait. So let's move on to wide receiver. Must start wide receiver. I have Eric Decker as my must start wide receiver.
I have Julio Jones.
Oh, okay.
He's still is he?
I believe he's playing. I mean, I have him on the.
I would have Julio Jones, or I would have a receiver. I would have what's his name? The receiver for the Michael for the
Michael
Saints.
Thomas. Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
He's another one. Okay. Now let's move on to tight end. My must start, huge definite start, Evan Ingram, New York Giants.
Yeah, he's definitely been playing. He's been playing really well recently.
Yeah, he is the #1 receiving option, and obviously because of all of the injuries to the receivers, Evan Ingram is going to get more looks. And going up against the Seattle defense, it has been reported that Seattle has given up almost 90 yards a game to in the last 4 games, 90 yards to tight ends. So we'll see what happens. And finally, defense. My must start defense. I would.
Defense.
What's up?
Bills defense.
Bills defense. Yeah, I could see. Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you were gonna ask me a different defense, I'd probably say
Vikings.
The Vikings. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think that pretty much does it. I think we covered everything. If you have any fantasy questions, again, feel free to ask.
Rick, I don't have any wins.
Yeah, he's 0-6, so shut up. I mean,
right.
forgot. Yeah. Alrighty.
You have anything else? Anything else? You're good? All right. So I hope everyone has a good Sunday. I hope everyone watches some good football, and I hope everyone
don't die.
Don't die. Don't get killed by an Eagles fan.
Exactly.
They're bad people.
They're armed and dangerous.
As I shake my fist towards them. Everyone have a good day. This was the 5th episode of Here's the Thing. At the end of the day, football talk, and hope everyone has a good one.
All right.